Ladies and gentlemen, drivers, gig workers, and everyone in between, welcome to This Week in Rideshare podcast. I'm your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Thursday, February 12th, and this week, Uber is positive on robotaxis, Florida reduces insurance, and a new e-hail app. Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney and all-around great guy, Brian Greening, is in the
Ah,
house.
what accolade. What a
Right?
way to start. I feel like we should do these on Monday so I can have like a real pick
Like a
me up at the
real,
start of
yeah, a
the
little hurrah.
yeah.
We need to get it like
Way
a
to-
was that a laugh track and a crowd track? Like, woo, we did it.
You know what? If that's what we need to produce this even further, I'm ready to go. We will spare no expense to have
Yes.
ultimate production.
Absolutely. We have interesting stories this week. Stuff we've talked about, and I definitely want your opinion on the second article. And we even recently talked about the third. So we're going to jump right in. All very relevant stuff. The first topic here, which is interesting, and I feel like we've been covering this. Uber is saying that they're seeing light at the end of the tunnel for robotaxis, and this is from Axios, and they reported, "quote Uber's superpower," the CEO says, "is its efficiency of its global network, something standalone AV companies lack." He's positioning Uber as a indispensable demand layer, with the company hoping to become the world's largest facilitator of AV trips by 2029. He said, the CEO said, AVs fundamentally amplify the strengths of our platform: global scale, deep demand density, sophisticated marketplace technology, and decades of experience matching riders, drivers, and vehicles all in real time. This is interesting, Bryant, because it seems to be confirming what we had talked about last time, that Uber is really positioning itself not necessarily to be the ones supplying the cars or the rides, but definitely supplying the data. I mean, they're
Yeah.
basically saying it.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. We talked about this on several occasions that Uber doesn't need to create the AV. I feel like they spent billions of dollars over the past decade trying to be the ones who were going to put the autonomous vehicle on the road. Why spend that money? Why use those resources when you can just be the hub that all the other AV companies use to connect customers to drivers, to make AV the primary source of rideshare? There's an old story. I think it was one of the old railroad guys who went out and he built all the tracks and he put all the railroads out into the Wild West, and there were all those people that followed and were just like, I don't need to build the railroads anymore. I'll just be the one to sell the shovels to the mining towns and to the ones who are going to go out there. And I know that's kind of a tangent, but what I think Uber's doing here is they're saying we don't need to build the equipment, we don't need to build the service. Let's build what people need to make this thing go to market, and that's where Uber is going to come in and do a really awesome job. And I think just capitalize and earn money on every single company that goes out there and tries to be in the AV space.
Yeah, I mean, we used to joke, and I know I certainly did. They have been for years saying that, hey, we're not a transportation company, we're a technology company. I think this is the first time that we're seeing that that is actually true. They are now focusing on the tech side, and like you said, they are the little digital shovels, not the train cars or the tracks themselves. And they're making it pretty clear that's the direction they want to go. I mean, they even said it again here in the article. They said that Dara said Uber's ride-hailing demand is expanding, not shrinking, in cities where AVs operate, even in places where they're not yet available on Uber's network. He's basically laying out that it's not on Uber, but we still have our hand in it. So he's literally showing his hand into what it looks like, really what they're going to be doing moving forward.
Right. This data is the playbook that every AV company needs. Like you see that there are, Waymos going in city by city and saying, okay, we need to map out all of San Francisco and then we can put our cars there. Well, Uber's been doing that for 10 plus years. Uber has the data that they can pass out to these AV companies, that it's just a ready-made roadmap for entering cities around the entire country. So they're going to speed up the process with the information that they've already collected, and can really just sell off. I mean, it's a simple game plan for them. And then it also keeps rideshare on their app, even if it's not with their cars.
Yeah, exactly. And that's obviously where this is going. And I'm sure every week we're going to get more updates, but very fascinating stuff. Our second story today, which definitely, Brian, I want your thoughts on and opinions on. Florida is looking to reduce their insurance. And this is from Tampa Bay Times. And they reported, quote, currently the company have had to have the liability coverage of at least $1 million for death, bodily injury, and property damage for all periods of a ride. The bill would reduce the required coverage to $50,000 when a ride is accepted. When a passenger is in the vehicle, it would go back up to $1 million. The bill sponsor, Senator Nick, a St. Petersburg Republican, said he's heard concerns about needing higher insurance if a driver was speeding to a ride, but he said he has not seen any evidence showing that's common. He said, quote, it's a cost savings, and at the end of the day, that's always going to benefit the employee and ultimately the consumer. Interesting in the article, representatives from Lyft and Uber both said that they're not vying either way for the legislation. And actually, under legislation passed that year, rideshare companies would be regulated as technology companies with independent contractors instead of as taxi companies. And the deal included requiring the higher insurance limits for all stages of the ride. So this is interesting, Brian. This is again, I really want your thoughts on this. $50,000, when you're online, does not seem like it's going to cover much of anything. I think you're muted. If you,
Oh no.
there we go.
There I am. $50,000 is not enough of insurance here. This is a pro business platform that this legislator who's out there proposing this clearly has heard from Uber and Lyft. This only benefits them. It's convenient that they're sitting on the sidelines saying, "Oh, we don't really care which way this goes." This is 100% to their benefit, and I would be shocked if they weren't the primary backers of it, even if that's behind the scenes. At the end of the day, there needs to be more insurance available for Uber and Lyft drivers and passengers and victims who might be involved in accidents with rideshare vehicles. The fact that they're trying to reduce the insurance available only hurts the community. So what they're saying is, oh, we don't need $1 million of coverage when the driver doesn't have a passenger in the car. We're going to do $50,000 at that time. So 2/3 of the time that a driver on one of these platforms is on the road, they're going to have this minimal insurance. When they're cruising around waiting for a fare, they'll have minimal insurance. When they've accepted a ride and on their way to a passenger, they'll have minimal insurance. And then only when that passenger happens to be in the vehicle will there be the heightened insurance policy. So 2/3 of the time, the community is at risk if that driver causes an accident, if that driver rear ends somebody else on the roadway, if that driver hits a pedestrian. And there's too much risk, which then passes the cost on to the rest of the community. In that scenario, say a pedestrian is hit by a driver. That person has several broken bones, needs several surgeries. Instead of Uber and their insurance company paying for those damages, it goes to the private health insurance that person has through their work, or it goes to the state because that person is on Medicare or Medicaid. All that this is doing is passing the bill to someone else other than the rideshare companies, which is what they've been trying to do pretty much the entire time that they've been in existence. Whether it's through independent contractor relationship, whether it's through continually making insurance policies less and less. They're trying to get other people, other entities, other government, whoever it is, to foot their bill and to foot the damages that they cause. And frankly, the person who's backing this bill is either blind, is in their back pocket, is getting money through contributions, whatever it is. He's acting for Uber and Lyft. He's not acting for his community.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but there's no other way to put this other than bullshit when he says that he's not seeing that it's common for drivers to be speeding to a ride. I mean, and I'm not even saying that all drivers are reckless. It's a known fact that because they're on the clock, because it's the job so demanding, often the data is showing that drivers are speeding just to get through the process, just to get the 5 stars, just to get to another ride to make it worth their time. So this idea that drivers wouldn't speed at all to a ride, I think that's completely insane.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it's not just speeding. There's all sorts of things that can go wrong. They could be speeding, they could be distracted, they could be getting, they could be eating because that's a moment in time when there's not a passenger in their car, so they can grab a couple bites of food. There's a million different ways that a driver can get into an accident, and I'm not comfortable with 2/3 of the time that they have less insurance than is necessary. I mean, frankly, there's times when this $1 million policy is not enough because it has to be split up. It's a single limits policy. If a driver gets into an accident and 5 people die, well, all of a sudden that $1 million isn't going very far. So the fact that we're going to be taking insurance away rather than adding to is foolish.
right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it says it has an uphill challenge to win in Florida, but we'll see. I mean, crazier things have passed. But I definitely thought this was pretty shocking that it's coming out. And yeah, just like you said, to wrap it up with that, they're acting like Uber and Lyft's acting like, oh, we have no say. They definitely have some sort of hand on this. Um, Definitely happening. But moving on to our final story this week, an unlicensed e-hail app, as they're calling it, is challenging Uber. And this is from the Gothamist. And they report a quote: the company called Empower markets itself as a pro-worker platform where drivers pay a $50 monthly fee to use the app. The driver can take home 100% of their fare, which they set themselves. The system leads to cheaper rides for passengers and higher wages for drivers, the company claims. However, ePower is facilitating those rides over the objection of the City, Taxi, and Limousine Commission, which set up a dedicated website warning New Yorkers not to use the app. The company is supposed to pay a $1,500 application fee to secure the base and insure each of its vehicles, which it has not done. The CEO of the company said thousands of drivers provide tens of thousands of rides in the city. And they obviously say it's a drop in the bucket compared to the 88,000 that they're doing for Uber and Lyft. The CEO of Sears said he believes that he had spoken to the board members of Uber, and they think that Empower is a threat to their business, and that's why they're acting this way. Uber did not respond to a request for comment on the CEO's claims. This is interesting. We've been hearing about Empower. I don't know either way. I don't use it. I know Torsten brought it up. I will say this though, just objectively here. The article goes into a lot because they talk to the CEO. His name's Sear, and he's constantly weighing and saying that it's unfair and everyone's trying to shut us down, but he hasn't paid the application fee. Like, just pay the application fee if that's really all that the issue is. Um,
Right.
he's skirting the laws, and they're telling him just we don't we're not singling you out. You just aren't playing by any of the rules. That seems to be the issue here.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple issues. One is, yes, if you're going to apply to be a rideshare company, if you're going to be a rideshare company, it does behoove you to follow the rules, because where Uber and Lyft came in at the beginning and played by the, break it and we'll fix it later, or, ask for forgiveness later type playbook, that's not going to fly anymore. The cities and the municipalities have gotten better. They have become more regulated, which is a good thing. We don't want random companies that are underinsured and underregulated, whether it's for safety or anything else, um, going through the city streets. It's too dangerous to put vehicles on the road that don't have any oversight. So I would encourage any rideshare company that's trying to get into the market and challenge the big guys to just play by the rules. And yes, it does cost money, but starting a business costs money, and you might as well have your T's crossed and your I's dotted, so that you can do it the right way. Um, that said, as a general proposition, I do like the idea that there are different companies popping up. We've seen companies try to challenge Uber and Lyft with various different models, pro driver models, pro customer models, looking for different ways to make rideshare better, safer, just an overall more positive experience for people that use it. And I think ultimately what these companies do, particularly when they have a little bit of traction, is they force Uber and Lyft to get better. If drivers are leaving Uber and Lyft because they're getting paid more on another platform, or if customers are finding that they're having a better experience, it forces the big guys to up their game, and ultimately that's a good thing. And I would love to see a third player come into fruition and actually challenge Uber and Lyft. We haven't really seen that yet, but if it's in power or if it's another one, I think it's really a great thing to have a little bit of versatility to just be able to have options in the rideshare space, because it is ripe for disruption. It's been kind of the same way for the past decade plus. Let's look for ways to make it better. And Empower's found some ways that they think will create a better experience. And I know there's a lot of other smaller companies out there that are doing the same thing as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And because even though Uber has such a large share of the market, it really is a duopoly. I mean, you're stuck between Uber and Lyft. You don't, they're very similar companies. Yes, I know Lyft is operating a little bit differently, but even which I agree with you on this too. Empowers. This is a few times we've seen this with these business models where you basically pay almost a franchise fee, and then you get 100% of the profits. They keep trying to do this, and I would love to see a company succeed because, as you said, a company that does that successfully can really shake things up for how Uber and Lyft pay drivers. Even if they never do that, Uber and Lyft will be forced to start paying drivers more. So I really do implore these companies like Empower and others to, if they can find a way to make that system work, and it makes money for drivers, would leap off of Uber in a heartbeat, knowing that they get 100% of the fare. I mean, that's crazy. So I would love to see it done correctly, because they even say in the article, Empower is going through litigation, not only in New York but in Washington D.C., where they've been held contempt of court. So they're it's like they're trying to play the rules that existed in 2016, which were no rules, but things are different now, and I wish they could get past this and focus on what people want versus kind of this negative press about, well, you don't seem legitimate.
Right. I think that's the right word, is there's this air of illegitimacy if you don't play by the rules. And it's just, there are rules in place, there are laws in place to how to operate a business, particularly in the rideshare space. All of these jurisdictions have learned from what they didn't know and didn't do, back in 2015, 2016 time period. And if you're not going to play by those rules, you're not ultimately going to get a seat at the table. Like I think it's interesting that they're trying to disrupt in this way, but I don't think that they're going to break through if they have this air of illegitimacy based on not following the law from the very beginning. That cloud, I just don't know is going to go away.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, that is the stories for this week. And of course, Brian, I'll give you the final say until we head into Friday and then, of course, the weekend.
Yeah, just reminding everybody that Legal Rideshare is always available for free consultations if you ever find yourself injured or in an accident in the rideshare world. So if you're a passenger, if you're a driver, if you get hit by a rideshare vehicle, you can always give us a call. We'll help you recover things like medical bills, pain and suffering, loss of normal life, wage loss, any other damage that you sustain. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Our contact information is all on our website, LegalRideshare.com.
Thank you, Brian. And as I like to say, that is the end of this week in Rideshare. See you next week.